I have the privilege of speaking all across the country and writing books, and we have a conference called Fresh Grounded Faith that we do all across the nation, and I've begun a podcast recently called the 413 Podcast. And so with the blessing of the success that we've experienced came something I did not expect, which is the need to lead. And I am a reluctant leader. Because here's why. As a writer, I just want to hide away in my office, and I want to light my hazelnut coffee candle, and I want to turn on the spa music, and I want to drink my green tea, and I want to just think and close the door and read and write. And I do not want to deal necessarily with a team of people that might perhaps have conflict or needs. And it dawned on me a few years ago that our ministry was managed exceptionally well. But our greatest asset, the people, were not being led well. And so I realized, even though I was reluctant, it was my responsibility to lead well. So in your booklet, I gave you some very practical, extraordinarily practical tips as to what I do in our team and our culture. But what I want to share with you this morning is these 3 choices I had to make. And I'm just going to touch on 3 choices I made as a reluctant leader, because I may not be the only one. Sometimes success happens to us, and with it comes responsibilities we didn't intend or we feel ill-equipped for. So here's my 3 choices. The first choice I made as a reluctant leader was I chose to grow up. To grow up. It was just time for me to mature into the position where God had given me the privilege of being. And whenever we grow, that means we have to change, right? So I learned to change my perspective. I chose to rise to the occasion of others' needs, not just my little desires to sit in my office and study and write and smell my hazelnut coffee candle. I also learned to change my vocabulary. If you're a reluctant leader, there are 2 words you absolutely have to take out of your vocabulary. Have to. I have to go to this meeting. I have to make this phone call. I have to deal with this conflict. And I literally got that pragmatic, and I decided to excise those 2 words from my vocabulary so that I could truly grow up. And instead, I changed those 2 words to get to. I get to go to this meeting. I get to make this phone call. I get to learn as I deal with this conflict. I get to. And so growth means change. And as I chose to just grow up, then I began to grow into the position. And that meant it brought me to the second choice, which is to step up. Step up. Step up to the plate. You know, if you're playing baseball, obviously what do? You pick up your bat, you walk to the plate, you step up to the plate, and then you begin to play the game. You learn the game, you practice the game, and that's exactly what I began to do in a very pragmatic way. I knew how to write, I knew how to speak, I knew how to do those things, but as far as leadership techniques, I really didn't know much. So in my office where I like to read my dead authors like C.S. Lewis, I brought in some living authors like Michael Hyatt and Eric Geiger and John Maxwell, and I began to just study and learn. And I learned leadership from them. I don't lead like them, but I learned how to lead like they have learned to lead so that I could apply that to my skills, my needs, our team's needs, and I began to practice. I sharpened my axe. There's this passage in the Old Testament in the wisdom literature in the book of Ecclesiastes. And the wisdom says there that when the axe is dull, when the blade is unsharpened, more strength is required. But where there is skill, there is success. So I began to sharpen my axe. And think about it. I mean, you could get the wood chopped with a dull blade, but it's going to be a lot harder. And what happens when you have a lack of skill is you compensate with trying to be stronger and more blustery and more difficult. And come down maybe harder than you need to accomplish the same thing this skill could have accomplished with greater finesse. So I learned to step up to the plate, and I do it over and over, and I learn, and I practice, and that means every now and then I hit a home run, and every now and then I still strike out, which leads me to the third choice, which was to fess up. Fess up. Just be honest. I remember when I was beginning to grow in this area, I called my team together for a meeting. We're all sitting at our long conference table, and you would have thought we were at an AA meeting because it was like, hi, I'm Jennifer, your reluctant leader. Hi, Jennifer. But I was just honest. I said, hey, I know that it is my responsibility to lead. And you know what? I began with an apology. I haven't done it well. But here's our vision, here's our mission, here's our culture markers, and here's how we're going to do this thing. And I appreciate you following me as I learn to lead. And they have. You see, you don't have to be strong to be a good leader. I believe the best leaders are the honest ones, because honesty does not reveal weakness, it reveals strength. And think about it. We can all look at Clark Kent and marvel. I mean, no, we don't marvel at Clark Kent. We marvel at Superman. I told you, 9 a.m. I get smarter. Okay, we marvel at Superman, but it's Clark Kent who we really want to hang out with. And you can't have a Superman without a Clark Kent. So admit you're a Clark Kent. A few years ago, I was on the Dr. Phil show, and it was a great privilege. I was there because I was invited to be a voice of encouragement to the parents of the only known set of blind, deaf triplets. And so at some point in the show, Dr. Phil was engaging the dad, and the dad was so discouraged, and he said to Dr. Phil, you know, I just wanted to be the hero, and I can't fix this. And then Dr. Phil looks at me to ask me whatever he was supposed to ask me, and truly I can't remember what he said because I was just so taken by what that dad had said. And so when I responded to Dr. Phil, I said, you know, Dr. Phil, I just have to say something about what it means to be a hero. I think we need to redefine what it means to be a hero. A hero is not the person who steps in and fixes everything. The hero is the one who stays in the battle even when they're reluctant and they're unwilling to quit. And to you, in your leadership, whether you feel reluctant or not, I would encourage you this morning by saying leaders are not the ones who step in and fix everything. Leaders are the one who are unwilling to quit and will always stay in the battle. So, thanks for letting me be here, and thank you, Great Southern.